Okay, I'm sure this will sound crazy to you, but I have not one but two ages. My real age and what I call my twin age. The age I kind of feel on my inside. And yep, on my inside, I feel much younger than on my outside. You. Do you feel the same? Have you ever wondered why? If so, you'll find out right now. I claim we're always the same age inside. But is it true and why is that? Welcome everyone to Newsweek and Why Do We? I'm Martin Lindstrom, author of The Ministry of Common Sense, How to Eliminate Bureaucratic Red Tape, Bad Excuses and Corporate BS. And with me I have the iconic Liza Donnelly. She's illustrating it all. If you recall those amazing drawings in the New Yorker, at the Oscars or Emmys, well, then you know Liza. Hi, Liza.
Hi, Martin.
I mean, I have to ask you this question. Do you feel younger on your inside?
Oh, of course. I don't feel my age, not at all. I mean, I feel some other kind of age.
So I have to ask you, I'm sorry for asking this. I know it's really rude, but what is your inner age? What's your twin age?
I think about 16.
16. Gee. Okay, hold your horses. I'm going to get back to you in a second, but I might just have the right man to answer our question. A man which never had been sick. He's had his second home for a while at the Oprah Winfrey Show, has written more than 80 books, been recognized on the books of the country's best sellers list, and recognized as one of the 100 most influential people in health and fitness. I'm, of course, talking about Deepak Chopra. Welcome, Deepak.
Thank you. It's nice to be with you and Liza.
I need to ask you about the consequences of us sitting behind screens all the time. I tend to say that we sit behind a screen observing the world, but we never become part of it. It's almost like we are not stimulating our senses anymore. And I would claim we're suppressing the sense of touch and the sense of smell. And from a rational point of view, we kind of don't realize it, but we feel empty on the inside. Have you noticed that through your research that there is also an aftermath of consequences, not just if you get COVID-19, but also an emotional damage happening to us?
Yeah, the emotional distress actually comes from what today we call multitasking. Multitasking is impossible. The human nervous system can only do one thing at a time. Even when you think you're multitasking, you're switching from one thing to another very rapidly, and you're not doing anything effectively. So your brain gets damaged as a result of that. Neural networks get damaged as a result of multitasking. It's the one thing that gets worse with practice. So we have very little attention span because every time you're checking email, then you're going on Twitter, then you're going on Instagram, then you're seeing how many likes you have, how many dislikes you have, who's approving, who's disapproving, and soon you mistake yourself for your selfie. You sacrifice yourself for your selfie. You think that's who you are. And that ultimately is what causes emotional, psychological, and mental distress, and ultimately actually ruins the neural networks. It is also addictive. So multitasking becomes addictive, and it ruins your neural networks and causes inflammation as well, which we now know predisposes to disease.
Why do we feel younger on our inside than our actual physical age?
So, Martin, there are three kinds of aging. One is called biological age, which is you measure the biological age with things like blood pressure, bone density, body temperature regulation, immune function, skin thickness, amount of wrinkles, muscle strength, the number of, the muscle mass, bone density, all kinds of things, blood sugar, sugar tolerance. There are many ways to measure biological age, including these days something called telomerase activity, which is the enzyme that regulates your genetic clock. That's biological age. I'm 75 years chronologically, which is the second kind of aging. Chronological age is when you were born, according to your birth certificate. Biological age does not have to match chronological age. So my biological age right now is under 40, even though I'm 75 years old. Then there's a third thing called psychological age. How do you feel younger inside, even though the outside is showing that your body is on its way to dusty death? So that's called psychological age. And then there's something called spiritual age, which is you never age, you're timeless. So it depends on which age we are talking about. Now, if you close your eyes right now, anybody can close their eyes and they'll become aware of a conversation they're having with themselves. Now, it's a great mystery. Who is having this conversation with itself? People complain when they meditate, I have too many thoughts. What are these thoughts? These are either memories or their imagination. And the memories go back to childhood, to teenage years. We identify with them. So psychologically inside, we feel younger. But when you look at the world of perceptual activity, you see it's changing all the time. The body is changing, the world is changing, and it's changing pretty fast. So that is the perceptual age is very much faster than the psychological age, which is a connection to memories, desires, aspirations, imagination, insight, intuition, inspiration, vision, and ultimately even transcendence. And then there's spiritual age, which you identify not with the mind or not with the body, but that which is experiencing the body-mind. We call it the witnessing awareness. If you identify with that sense of self never changes. It's the same when you were a baby. It's the same when you were a teenager. It's the same right now. And by the way, according to spiritual experience, that is the transcendent self that never ages. So what you identify with is what is aging. If you identify with the body and the world, that's aging very fast. If you identify with your memories and imagination, your insight and aspiration, and move in the direction of joy, then that is a different kind of age, which is we call psychological age, the age we think is inside. And then there is the witnessing awareness, the sense of self that never ages anyway. We call it I am. Before we say I am Deepak Chopra, or I'm Martin Lindstrom, or I'm Liza Donnelly, there's a common awareness that we call I am. I am never ages, never ages.
Absolutely fascinating. I can't stop thinking about Ellen Langer and mindfulness.
Yeah, so Ellen Langer is a Harvard psychologist. She wrote the book Mindfulness many years ago before mindfulness became popular. I knew her when she was a young professor at Harvard, and I was also at Harvard Medical School and other schools at that time. And Ellen Langer did an experiment, I think in the late 80s, where she took a group of men, and they were all over the age of 80. She took them to a monastery where she created an environment from 30 years previously. So apparently from the 50s. So without going into all the details, every news item was from the 50s. Walter Cronkite reading the news, music from Elvis Presley, and the old music of in the 50s, and they wore dresses, or their dress code was from the 50s, and they all pretended that they were living in the 50s, and within 3 weeks their biological markers reversed very significantly, if I remember correctly, by several years. So that was the first demonstration that psychological age and experience and what you identify with is what causes your biology to respond to your psychological age. It was a landmark experiment, but now we know that that is true.
This is so fascinating. As you know, I have a pretty strong sense of self as a cartoonist, and cartoonists are generally young at heart anyway, because we're playing with words and images on the paper. But as I age, I'm finding myself constantly struggling with the culture around me because it's constantly telling me that I'm irrelevant, particularly as a woman. My body is what they are responding to, and not who I am as a seasoned mind.
So I have a theory here, Deepak. I want you to hear this theory. My theory is that the age you have, your psychological age, is found by asking yourself a simple question. When was the first time you were truly liberated? Where you felt truly liberated? So now we're going to do an experiment live on tape here. Liza, what happened when you were 16 or 8? Anything special?
Yes, Martin. I lived in Rome. I was born in Washington, D.C., but I moved to Rome with my family for a year. And I was already drawing cartoons, but I was drawing them more over there and I felt I could wander around the city of Rome. I just felt myself.
As the world now is going through a sense of anxiety, I think there was an article in the New York Times by Adam Grant talking about languishing, the level after anxiety but before depression, the feeling of that we really feel at our ease all the time. What is your advice to all those people out there which feel like that? What are the things they have to revisit in their life, or things they have to think about to get back on track again?
The only thing that will help that is to understand deeply at the level of experience that the separate self does not exist. It's a socially induced hallucination. We are all part of a matrix of relationships. And the more we harness the relationships with other living beings, humans, and even pets and dogs and cats, the more you harness that through attention, which means deep listening, appreciation, deep gratitude, affection, deep caring and love in action, and acceptance, not trying to change another person. It's hard enough to change yourself. And if you expect others to change because you should feel better by their changing, that's another hallucination. So focus on relationship, focus on the 4 A's: attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance, and maybe you'll feel better.
Let's talk about the cartoon for a second. Liza, what's going on here?
Well, I was thinking about your question about when you, how old you feel inside, not outside. And many of us probably would answer like I did, that you're 16 or 13 or whatever. So I drew a boardroom with people in the room, and they're obviously younger than they might be in a boardroom. But this one man is clearly an adult in age, in chronological age. And what he's missing is he hasn't been able to get in touch with his self or soul. I couldn't decide which word to use, self or soul. But so it's just a commentary on that.
Well done, Liza. I'm proud of it. I mean, you are never too old to become younger. Listen, thank you so much, Deepak. It's been an absolutely honor to have you on the show. Liza, as always, you're a star. I just want to say, we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing.
And there's another thing I would like to add to that. We don't grow old. When we stop growing, we become old.
Exactly. Who could have said it better than Deepak Chopra? Thank you so much. And listen, thanks everyone for watching Newsweek. Why do we? We'll see you next week where we're going to explore. Take care and bye for now.